Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Musically Mindful, a show where I sit down with your favorite musicians, artists, and even some of your friends to talk about mental health within the music scene. My name is Mike Renzetti, and I'm stoked to have another really cool guest with me this week. It's actually the first time we've ever crossed paths, and I'm excited to see where we connect and what that new space can yield. He is a touring musician, songwriter with a unique path to finding his place in music. You might recognize him as banjo player and vocalist from the Montana-bred psychedelic Americana bluegrass quartet, the Kitchen Dwellers. Please join me in welcoming to the show Torrin Daniels.
How's it going?
It's going well, man. It's a beautiful day here in Colorado, and I woke up. Everything after
Yeah,
that's just kind of icing.
yeah, perfect. Hell yeah.
So I'm stoked to. I appreciate you making the time, and I'm stoked to. Like I said, we've never crossed paths before, and I'm just excited to see, kind of what this conversation might yield. Get your thoughts and highlight, tell the people what's going on in Torn's mind.
Yeah, perfect. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah. What's going on in my mind is uh an interesting question, I think, uh most of the time, or in
I
anybody's mind.
I feel like it naturally is. There's so many different days, moments, every minute can change depending on, what's going on internally, externally, and so many things.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, let's just dive right in. So when I say mental health, what exactly does that mean to you?
I think, well, I feel like it has um a tendency to be used as like a buzzword or phrase nowadays. So there are some things attached to it that I think, part of it is breaking the stigma of talking about your mental health nowadays, which I feel like as a society we're getting better at. But yeah, I think when I think of mental health, I guess I just think of doing the same maintenance on your mind that you would do on your body, like when you work out, or when or when you practice an instrument or something like that. It's an ongoing thing all the time, always changing.
I agree, and something that I think is really, we are as a society getting better at breaking that stigma. There are people that are coming more forward with a willingness to talk about it, and it's just becoming more commonplace.
Yeah.
But I do find that within music, particularly within the jam scene, whatever you want to call, it's it's like the most important conversation that so few people are willing to have.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I feel like it's easy, it's easy to talk about in terms of like, you know, everyone's mental health, or like, people's mental health in general. Um and sort of talking about it like as an issue, but when it gets down to like your mental health or my mental health, that becomes the part, I think, where a lot of people are either, apprehensive, or they kind of, they kind of bail when it gets to that point.
For sure. I mean, it's easier to bail than it is to dig your heels in and have the conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially in terms of, like you said, mental health is work. It's not something that ever stops. You can't like kick your feet up and be like, "Cool, I'm healed. It's over."
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I think that mental health, particularly, it means so many different things to so many different people. It means that maintenance, like you were talking about, but it also means, checking in on yourself. It means checking in on the people around you. It means it means so many different things, and there's so many different microcosms within it.
Yeah.
And I think, especially in the context of music, you guys being like road warriors and touring musicians have such a different or such a unique perspective because there's so many things that you deal with that do connect to the regular sides of mental health, but you have so many particulars that people don't live on a day to day.
Totally.
And I guess where I kind of want to start with that is music in general. When did music become an integral part of your life? When did music kind of become the thing for you?
I guess, uh, well, in school, I started playing the drums, when I was like super young, when I was like, um, probably like 12 or 13. And sort of became like obsessive about it pretty quickly. Um, and got into, instead of just playing drums in band or whatever, playing having my own kid at home and playing in bands with my friends or playing along to whatever music I was into at the time. And I guess it didn't take very long to figure out that that was like something that I really wanted to do, was to be in a band, um and I think once, I got to college and was like, had been in bands in high school and things like that, and then was in a band in college, joined the band that I'm in currently. And I think like maybe like the moment that it like we thought that like maybe this could be, maybe successful, or we could maybe function as a touring band for, at least for a couple of years or something, not trying to achieve anything far-fetched. Even the like the slight inkling of that was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life in some capacity. Um, but yeah, I guess it became, the thing that um makes me feel okay about all the other stuff in life, pretty quickly. And not that you're supposed to use the stage as your therapist by any means, or anything like that, but it is an outlet, for a lot of energy in your life. um so I think, it like quickly, kind of became something for me that I just knew that was my favorite thing to do, like right away.
I think something that you said that's super unique within that is not just that you wanted to do it or be in a band, but the thought that you could function as a touring band
Yeah.
because it's a project, it's a relationship, it's a business, it's there's so much within being a touring artist. There's so much within being a live musician, especially because that you never know what you're going to get on a day to day. You don't know if you're going to get a flat. You don't know if you're going to get a shitty hotel.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
especially in the early, kind of the inception. I'm sure that it's a grind, man. Like,
Yeah.
and
Totally.
I can only speak to it as from the other side of the guardrail. I've never done it. I have a ton of friends that are musicians. Dogs in a Pile are friends. I'm originally from Jersey. They're friends of mine from home. I've known the
Oh yeah.
guys in Pigeons for almost a decade, and so some other musicians, and I've seen it, but you can't really. It's one of those things you can't. You had to be there, like yeah,
Yeah.
until you do it or you experience it. It's hard to kind of understand so many of those aspects. And one thing that I find particularly with music as an outlet is on both sides of the guardrail, your music is a way to seek something.
Yeah.
It's a conduit to self-control, self-expression, exploration, and kind of whatever you want it to be. And something that you said in the video that you did with Backline that you kind of hinted at just now was that it isn't your therapist, but it's a form of therapy.
Totally. Yeah, it is. I mean, I feel like for most people, performance is cathartic. Some definitely more than others, and some performances obviously more than others. Some shows are just kind of like it's just the show, but some of them are bigger, have emotional attachments to them, depending on the location or the date or whatever. um and so yeah, so I feel like almost every performance is an outlet in some way, because you're really just moving you can just move like the stale energy of the day basically out of you, kind of like going to the gym or whatever. um but yeah, it is. Yeah, I feel like it is definitely a form of therapy, and also I feel like me, myself, like many other musicians, found that out during COVID, where it was like, oh, suddenly we're not playing any shows, we're not playing for anybody, and just realizing like how big of a grip that actually had on all of us, as musicians, that, oh, like I actually like kind of need to play shows, to,
Hmm.
at least every now and then, uh for right now, just because that's what that's what we're used to. And so, um when it's suddenly not there anymore, you realize how much you sort of lean on it, um to carry parts of your mental health. I think it's really important not to let that be the whole thing, not to let it be the only thing that makes you feel good. But depending on different times in your life and where you're at, sometimes it helps more than other times. So
Well, it's another, it's a notch in your tool belt to be able to use.
yeah.
It's an outlet, just like you said, and I think either of the side of the guardrail that you're on, the live setting is something that isn't matched anywhere else because
Yeah.
it's not only, especially with like what you guys do with the improvisational style, because nobody really knows what's going to happen. There's that tangible unknown and the beauty of, hey, we're going to go this way and maybe they'll come with us, or we're going to go that way and maybe they won't, but we're all going to get back to the same place one way or another, and we're going to
Yeah.
experience something. It's a part of human connection.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same respect, in particular with COVID, did that make you lean more into the actual creation of music itself, not having that outlet of performing or maybe the human face to face connection? Did you find a different relationship with music from the creation side?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, during COVID, we were lucky enough to still all be living in the same town in Montana, um, which a lot of our friends in bands didn't, live in the same city at that point. So we all actually had the opportunity to go in, and we um started renting a studio space, with some other local folks around Bozeman, and um sort of like made it a space that we could go to every day, and sort of work on writing, and we worked on, yeah, basically trying to record a new album, during those couple of years of COVID. So that's what our album, Wise River, came out of, was us being able to go into that studio and work on all these songs together in a, kind of in a more collaborative way than we had before. Um, and a lot of those songs kind of reflect that time too. where some of them are very introspective, and some of them are, even like escapism, like we're like a lot of, folks in Montana were, the only thing we could do was go outside at the time, so luckily we weren't in fucking Brooklyn and sitting in a apartment staring at the fucking wall for 2 years, because I know people that did that for sure, that had
Mhm.
to. Um, but in Montana we could get, you still go, fishing or hiking or skiing or whatever, you still get outside. So a lot of um that music on that album kind of reflects all that time that we spent outdoors in those couple years. But definitely, yeah, created more of a drive to work on all those songs, because typically that's the problem, is we just don't ever have time to go
Mhm.
record new material, because we're always on the road. So we definitely took advantage of that. Yeah, it definitely worked to our advantage as well, just being able to put things out during that time when everyone was sort of taking a forced break. And definitely, yeah, created a little bit of a different relationship with the music for us.
The pandemic had such a wide array of effect on people in so many different pockets of life. But something
Yeah,
you said, and something that I think I've kind of seen, particularly within music, is like you said, it actually made you guys collaborate even closer. And it luckily you were in a scenario where you were able to. But
totally.
I have found that COVID really it kind of reignited and reengaged this collaboration and appreciation of music for the people that are creating it.
Definitely.
And coming out of that, now you're in a point where I also love what you said about being able to go outside. Like for me personally, with my mental health, I go outside to go inside.
Yeah, totally.
Getting out. I live in Colorado now for almost a year now, and even before that, when I was on the East Coast, I hiked everywhere that I was able, and just to there's a different ability to just kind of connect with yourself when you can unplug and get outside.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that it's something that not enough people credit enough to, is like even in the basic, like just get outside and get some sun on your face for 15 minutes. Just go for a walk down the street. Like it can
Totally.
have such a resonating effect. It can change the whole course of your fucking day. Like
Totally.
it really can. And with the ability to do that and collaborate and create new music and introspective stuff, what exactly, in terms of songwriting and creation, because I think anybody that writes music, I'm not a musician by any means professionally, for sure not, but I do, play guitar and a little bit and mandolin and sing and write as something that's for me. And I'm curious how songwriting and the creation aspect of music, what exactly does it serve you personally? Because obviously, creating can be cathartic and
Totally.
you can use music to work through things. But in your own journey, what exactly has songwriting provided you?
Um, I mean, I think part of it for me at least is like creating, like it's basically like a sense of accomplishment or satisfaction from creating something. And I think, yeah, I think part of it is because we're kind of an odd band, as far as sound goes. We're a little bit on the weirder side and kind of play, you know whatever strikes us at the moment, genre wise, or stylistically. And so part of it is like wanting to hear a type of music and it not maybe existing in the form that you wanted it to, and so creating that out of nothing yourself is very satisfying. um but yeah, I think part of the, I guess, creative process is obviously writing. And there's different techniques that everyone uses for songwriting. um but one of them can be, where you just sit and just write, just kind of stream of consciousness, like for a set amount of time every day. That's like a pretty good songwriting practice to like get your brain sort of in that like flow state quickly, or you're able to like establish that connection more quickly the more often you do it. And so just writing like that and just like getting thoughts out of your head is like, super good for moving through, stagnant energy. But also that's like, that's definitely a process of either mindfulness or therapy, is journaling. So it's same kind of thing, where if some people, sometimes you don't know how to absorb whatever you're feeling, or make sense of it until you see it out in front of you. you know and lots of people, or some people process things vocally where they have to like vent to somebody, and they don't even realize that you're feeling these emotions or why you're feeling them until you are able to say it out loud, and then you kind of make that connection. And so writing is definitely sort of an act of processing something, whether the material is whether it's fictional or not. I think most songwriting is usually evoking some sort of emotion out of the writer. So it's definitely a process in mindfulness.
That's a super interesting point about the fictional material versus like the non-fictional. I'm sure
Yeah.
that you have songs that are deeply personal versus songs that you're like, I saw a leaf and I had a cool idea.
Yeah,
And
or like we just used these words because they sounded good together. That's like,
Mhm.
you know, a lot of songwriters are, sometimes using, you know, words because they have these syllables in them. Like it's like you're a hip hop artist. It's like you're in fucking Wu-Tang or something. You're just
Mhm.
using that because that pentameter of that word sounds good, or this phrase sounds good or clever. But it is funny, the songs that people do think are personal, or that they are about something in your life, and you're like, actually, this is totally fictional. And then there's other songs that people definitely think are fictional or aren't sure what it's about, and those are sometimes very personal ones, um, that sometimes you don't ever explain those to people.
Well, that's one of the coolest things I think that exists about music is that it's open to interpretation.
Yeah,
What a song meant to you while you wrote it is going to mean something to you now, and it might even change for you as the person that wrote it.
totally,
But if you're looking out in the crowd, that guy might feel this way about it. It might connect to this person in this level. And
totally. Yeah,
I think that that's something super unique is it because it's one thing to create, right? You're bearing a piece of yourself within something. Like you said, it's
yeah,
an achievement. It's
yeah,
real, it's tangible.
yeah,
But going out on stage and giving that to people is like the ultimate surrendering of like, hey, here's a piece of me.
yeah,
What do you think?
yeah,
or or not even what do you think, but take it and do with it what you want.
totally. Yeah, and there's the argument too. um can't remember who said this or what, who I'm paraphrasing, but there's the idea that once you write the song, it's not yours anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you wrote it well, if you did your due diligence as a songwriter, then you made it specific enough that it comes, from a genuine place, and um definitely addresses some sort of emotion, but you weren't super specific. You were vague enough so that someone else could make a connection to it. um so there is the argument that once you create the art, it's not yours anymore.
And I
And
think as a creator, that's something, your medium of creation and mine are very different.
totally.
But I think it was either Jerry specifically or the Dead that was like, once we're done with it, like they can have it.
Yeah.
And that's always something that I've reflected back to in my own, aside from this podcast, I do some social media like Instagram mental health content and stuff like that. And I've talked about this with Jake Brownstein and Jeremy Kaplan, and the idea of like the creator, it's as the creator, you tend to run into this like, well, who am I making it for? Is it for me? Is it for them? Am I serving a purpose? Am I doing this? Am I doing something good? And I find often that with music, the ability to let go of that and the ability to let people have it and interpret is the root of how you come off authentically in your music.
Totally. Yeah. And it's I think you learn, through um collaboration, and working with um producers for when you do record an album and things like that. You at first, I think, most people, when you start writing songs and like being in a band, and introducing your first songs to people, you kind of like, you really take this ownership of it, of like, this is my song, I wrote it this way, I want it to be this way, and you're super resistant to change. I don't want to change this part of the song, or things like that. But then through, you know going through that process over the years, and working with other people collaboratively, you um you learn not to take too much ownership of that, and to let it be what it's going to be, basically, to get out of your own way. And a lot of times as artists, you can be, like, basically too close to the painting to see the whole thing. When you're writing a song, you can be super hyper focused on this one part that you don't want to change. But if you get another outside perspective, from someone you're collaborating with, and they can be like, well, what about this over here? Well, you didn't even see that part of the painting over there because you were too close.
You got blinders on.
Yeah. Yeah. um yeah, so I think the the whole creative process, at least for me, is like is definitely an exercise in being more mindful, and being more aware, I guess, of like how your brain works, and how your mind works with your emotions and stuff. Because you know can be the immediate reaction can be, the like, fuck you, I'm not changing it, I don't want, this is mine, I take
Hmm.
take ownership of it. But if you just take a second, and instead of reacting right away, and think about it, and be open to these other ideas, that's how create some of the best work, is being open, and being not resisting change, and being willing to see where things will go. Sometimes that's like how you reach like a better, sense of flow state, and where you're just creating off the cuff authentically,
And it's a perfect parallel into how we try to operate in our mental health too. You know,
Yeah,
getting
totally.
getting out of your own way, letting things be what they are. And I fall subject, and I'm not gonna say victim because like it's my own self-doing, but
Yeah, yeah,
I fall to that often of it's hard to let go of control sometimes. It's hard to
totally. Yeah,
not know where you're going, not know what's happening, not being in just not being in control. But I often say that to me, like the ultimate control is the ultimate release.
totally.
Because
Yeah,
if you can't let go, nothing's if you're never you can't let go of or you can't grab onto anything until you let go of everything.
totally.
And I think that music is an incredible conduit to teaching us exactly that, to being able to let go of things, let things breathe and be what they are. And particularly in the improvisational space, when you're at a show and there's that reciprocation of energy back and forth and everyone is just in the moment. It's arguably, I mean, I personally think it's the most pure practice of that, of just, hey, this is what it is. Buy the ticket, take the ride.
Yeah, totally. And lots of improvisational musicians talk about, like, respecting that space on stage, when that is happening, like allowing things to unfold. And that's when you're doing your best playing. John Bell talks about it, Derek Trucks talks about it. It just sort of, realizing what's going on, but not, forcing it, and letting it be what it's going to be. And that's um sometimes that's when you play your best shit. And there's like this idea that I think about a lot is when you're on stage and you're performing, the more that like you are yourself when you're doing it, the more that I am fully myself on stage, and fully authentic, and I'm not, putting up a front, or, trying to achieve this certain, goal out of this performance or playing this song, and I'm just being myself, and having a good time playing. The more it allows the other people on stage with me to authentically be themselves, which then influences, the jams and the improv, which makes us as a whole, as a band, be authentically ourselves, which is when we're going to sound the best, which allows all the people in the audience to authentically be themselves and be into the music and watching it unfold. And that's when you have your best fucking shows.
Well, it's a language. You're communicating on stage to the people off stage without words, sometimes with words, sometimes
Yeah.
whatever the sounds may be. Music, there's like a primal, people were banging on drums and rocks way before they were able to talk to each other.
Oh yeah, totally.
And I think that, like I was saying, in particular with the live setting, it's a unified search. It's a unified time and space to be and let be.
Yeah.
Do you find any difference from being on stage to being off stage in terms of like what music gives to you as a listener versus as a creator?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, just sort of like fundamentally, I guess I listen to very different music than what I play typically. Or, just different than a lot of my friends listen to, like I don't I don't necessarily listen to, bluegrass or jam bands that much anymore in my spare time. Obviously I do sometimes, but like my go-to is typically like punk and metal and um hip hop and stuff like that. Generally when I'm going through my day. And I think it's because, well, it's because that's, what first interested me in music, so that I have a connection to that type of music. Um, but also, yeah, I feel like I'm getting different emotions out of that as I, go through my day. It's like, it's high energy, it's motivating, it's like helping me get shit done during the day or go to the gym or whatever. Um, and when we're playing music, although our music does have elements of all of that, we're definitely in the jam band, realm, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, now. Like people always ask about our band at like, what kind of music do you play? And I'm like, I mean, we have bluegrass instruments in our hands technically, but uh, our fans like throw around a lot of, out there terms. You can basically put any uh prefix on grass nowadays and have some sort of subgenre.
Hmm.
Yeah, our fans say galaxy grass, which is like, I mean, we're definitely like making, space-esque noises a lot of the time,
Sure.
and a lot of affected stuff for, playing stylistically, playing something that is not even remotely close to bluegrass. Um, but I think when I'm playing, I'm definitely like, exploring all of those spaces. And so it's getting a different emotion out of it. As aside from in comparison to the music I'm listening to for the day, but it is like, both of them are sort of like feel like a meditation to me. Just as far as, playing is definitely meditation. But then listening when you're, doing something or working out, which, something that's motivating, you're definitely, using that as a meditation as well. And both of them are helping you get to places that I don't think you would otherwise get to mentally and or physically without the music.
I mean, it's an incredible bridge to whatever you're looking for. You know, there's music
Yeah.
that makes you feel this way. There's music that makes you feel that way. Like I recently I was at a record store here, or it wasn't even a record store. It's like this weird little like they ship stuff and they have old action figures and they have records and they have like coins. It's just like
Huh.
the weirdest spot, but it's really cool. And I walked in and I grabbed a Zappa record, a Flat and Scruggs record, and they had Wu Tang The Swarm Volume 2 mixtape.
Nice.
And I grabbed the three and I brought them up to the counter, and the guy looks up at me and he's like, "What the fuck are you into, dude?"
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Like my Spotify searches look like I'm fucking schizophrenic for sure.
yeah, but that's the coolest thing is like music should be that explorative, whether it's, you know, whatever you're currently into, whether I want to throw on Anderson Paak or I want to put on Kikagaku Moyo or I want to listen to
Totally.
Pigeon's
Yeah.
new album or I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
listen to Tony Rice Unit or
Totally.
whatever you feel in the moment is perfect. And I think that's cool that you guys do that on stage too. Like you said, you play like whatever you're feeling because
Totally. Yeah. There could definitely be like a cowboy song and a bluegrass traditional and a 90s punk cover all in the same set.
and there should be, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like,
totally. Yeah,
why
yeah.
why be stuck in a box? Like fuck that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. And I find it interesting that there is so much music that you can access nowadays. Just like at, the push of a button, you have, literally every single song that's ever been written or ever will be written is like on this box that's in your pocket. And um the fact that that exists and there are still people just listening to either, Fish or the Dead like every single day, and that's like all they listen to, or they listen to Bob Dylan all day every day, and that's it. And then that has always cracked me up, that those people exist. They're just like, I fucking like what I like, and that's it. Like, that's all for me. And that always cracks me up. Just because there it just exists so much music on the face of the earth in sheer volume that you're never going to be able to listen to everything, but you can sure as hell try.
And that's exciting. The fact that you almost know that you can't listen to everything makes you
Yeah,
want to just keep trying. Like,
totally. Yeah, and I mean, I definitely know some people that do a pretty good job of listening to almost everything. um yeah. I can't remember what it's called. Daniel Donato showed me fucking app on your phone that's like a radio app that you can click on it. It's like a map of the globe, and you can click on it on different countries and then
oh,
different
I've
years,
seen that.
and it'll show you, like, it'll play you a song that was on the radio like in the Sudan in 1973, and like you can, it, and like the possibilities are like endless, and it's different every time, and it's just incredibly interesting, that you just have access to something like that now.
Especially considering the wide array of subject matter. Like you think about in the cosm of like the jam scene, how much there is.
Yeah,
Get out of just the US, the
yeah,
amount
totally.
of musical influence that exists in other countries that other people are writing and other people are creating. I mean, look at how look at how much Australia has like invaded the US over the past few years
Oh yeah,
with
with like King
is and
Jordan
like
and Glass Beam.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy. And
it is
I
wild. Yeah, they have like definitely made their music scene known for sure.
yeah, and they take it global like
Yeah,
quickly,
yeah, very quickly.
which is really cool. And I think that part of the beauty within that is that there's so much freedom in music, and there's so much freedom in the exploration of whatever you're listening to, however it makes you feel. There's
Totally.
freedom in like, I want to go listen to that. I want to go see this. This is really cool. Like my friend Alex Gator from Pigeons,
Oh yeah,
anytime we talk about music, he'll tell me about things I've never heard of before.
totally. Yeah, yeah.
And I find that the musical influences on people that make music are so different in the jam space. I mean, I've read interviews about you guys where you talked about all your influences being different, and even the fact that you play banjo in the Dwellers was like by proxy because you had a banjo.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Yeah.
And it's a unique thing that I think people use, some people at least use music as that form of freedom and expression to just find. And there's something really special about like sending somebody music or
Yeah.
showing
Totally.
somebody music.
Yeah.
It's a deepening of human connection because it's like, hey, I heard this thing, I think you'll dig it, check it out.
Yeah, it can definitely be like a love language for sure. And definitely, yeah, like I definitely have a couple friends that you know, we like send shit back and forth like on a, semi-weekly basis, because now you can just click on Spotify and get that link and text that link to somebody, like,
Hmm.
instantaneously. Um and it's definitely like a yeah, definitely a deeper form of human connection, because there's a lot of people that I don't do that with. So, there's
Sure.
that's definitely like those are my like closer friendships. Um, if you're sending that kind of thing back and forth. Um,
All my best friends are musical friends.
totally. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, same.
And it's important. I think it's an important thing to have.
Yeah, it's mind blowing when you meet somebody that is not like that's super out of that realm, or just not into music in general, like in any capacity. Because like even people that even fucking squares that are have no idea what to do, even they listen to the radio and they're like, well, I like Beyonce because she's on the radio, or
Right.
I like Bruno Mars because he's on the radio, and the world told me that I need to like him, so that's what I listen to. Um, there's even people like that listen to music, but there are people out there that are literally just not into. Like I forget that there are people that are just not into music. And recently, when we played at the Capitol Theater with Twiddle, like back in the fall, we got at the end of the show, um, me and my buddy Dobbs got into this taxi, and we start driving, and the girl that was driving, I mean, she was probably like, I don't know, 27 or something like that. Like she was, definitely old enough. She lived in Port Chester. She was like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Well, we just played the Cap." And she's like, "What's the Cap?" And I was like, "The Capitol Theater." She was like, she's like, "Oh, there's a theater here." And I was like, "You live in this town. Like that's the only reason anyone goes to fucking Port Chester, New York, is to go to the Capitol Theater."
Yeah, facts.
Like that's like the thing. And she was like, "What's," and I was like, "Well, it's the Capitol Theater." And she's like, "Oh, you're a musician." I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "What's," I was like, "It was just so cool to play that venue." And she was like, "What's this, significance of the Capitol Theater?" And I was like, "Well, it's where, the Grateful Dead played back in the day, as, one of their favorite venues. It's legendary venue." And she goes, "What's the Grateful Dead?" And like before I can even like reply, like my buddy Dobbs that's sitting next to me is like push me back. He's like, "Shut the fuck up, I got this." And he's like, "All right." He's like, "We got about 30 minutes in this Uber, and you're gonna need to listen to everything that I tell you." And he just like in the 30-minute Uber drive basically explained like the 60s, the counterculture, the drug culture, the acid test, the dead, and that the dead are still a thing, and that eventually, in one way or another, led to Fish, which eventually led to the jam scene, which is what kind of band I am in. And like in the 30 minutes, this girl learned so many things that she had literally never previously known to exist, let alone consider in her life.
Mm.
And like we got out of the we got out of the car, and he was playing her songs the whole time on her phone, like while she was driving. And like by the time we got out of the car, she was just like sitting there listening to a live Fish show, just like dumbfounded at this whole part of life that she had no idea existed.
Meanwhile, your buddy's like Charlie from It's Always Sunny with like
Oh,
all the
totally. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 I mean, like he was just at the show. Like I was playing the show, but like he was just at the show. So like he's on one. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
She had a
uh
personally curated Spotify and lecture.
totally. Oh
And
yeah. Yeah. He fucked her algorithm up for sure.
that's
Well,
awesome.
yeah. So that was like a solid reminder that like we are, very lucky to exist in this environment, and know that that these things are a part of life, and that's part of what makes life so good. Um, and that there are definitely people out there that don't have any idea about any of it. They never even seen it or heard it.
Yeah, there's I've had a couple times where I've had to do physical therapy before, and the guy that does my PT is actually a kid that I went to high school with. That's a few years younger than me.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That like I knew back then a little bit, but obviously like it was more passing. And then like
totally.
here we are. I'm 29. Like it's all these years later, and I go in, and he's the doctor, and I'm like, whoa. And
Yeah,
and he's just asking me about life, and I'm like, oh, like every time I come in for a visit, he's like, so where'd you go this weekend? I was like, oh, I went to see pigeons here. I went to go see goose there. I went to go see
yeah,
Billy
yeah,
Strings there.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he's like, dude, like I don't even ever need to ask where you are. I just need to like look up these bands' tour schedules.
yeah, totally. Yeah,
And I was like, yeah. And I come to find, I was like, so what are you like into? Like, what concerts have you seen? He's like, I've never been to a concert before.
yeah. That was, oh yeah, that was the thing that this girl, she said she had never been to a live performance before.
Right. And like, don't get me wrong. There are like the people that go to like their siblings like jazz band thing. There are
Yeah.
people that like
Totally.
go see like Wicked or Rent or whatever
Yeah, yeah.
Broadway.
Right, yeah, yeah.
But to never have gone to see any music before, even if you're like, I went to go see Post Malone, I went to go see
Yeah,
Beyonce, I went to go see Taylor
totally.
Swift because my girlfriend loves Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
to never have seen live music blows my mind.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And there are so many people that haven't. I mean, it's funny you said in your show in your best show ever episode, you were like, Wooks are just nerds, but the trinkets are different.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
totally. With Sam? Yeah.
it's so true because we are nerds. I mean, there are so many times in my life where somebody will ask me a question about like what I'm into, and the dead will come up and they're like, "Well, why?" And I'm like, "Well, if you listen to this show from 11/4/77, the intro to Eyes is like a little bit more sped up and it's really really cool." And they're like, "You weren't alive
Yeah,
in
yeah. They're like,
77."
yeah,
Like
how do you know this? Yeah.
and we really are just nerds, but it's a passion. It's something that you can learn and study. And you know, it's like how the dead said, you know, like people that we're like black licorice. People that like licorice really like black
Like
licorice, and people that don't really
fucking
don't.
hate black licorice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's true. And I'm sure that, you know, being out on the road, traveling the fucking country, playing, you know, I'm sure that it's maybe not as many now, but there was definitely a point where you guys were playing 200 shows a year, and
Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure.
you're in Bumblefuck, Pennsylvania, and you're just like meeting somebody that blows your mind, or meeting somebody in Oklahoma or insert state here.
Yeah.
So what kind of, I mean, I'm sure we can talk about, you know, challenges of life on the road itself, but I'm more intrigued now into what life on the road permits you through like the human interaction and what you get out of like meeting these different people with different tastes and styles and outfits, and what exactly does life on the road serve you that way?
Right. Well, I think, you know, um, part of like the part of it's like kind of feeding the inner child a little bit on the road. Obviously playing music, you're doing what you love, what you're the funnest thing that you're doing it for a living, so that's that is definitely servicing your inner child for sure. But there's also like the sense of like in every day is sort of an adventure if you allow it to be. So there's like every the one of the things that I most look forward to on tour is getting up and before load in, just like wandering whatever neighborhood the bus arrives in, whatever neighborhood we wake up in, just like wandering around for a little bit before we have to be at the venue for load in, and like just like go get some coffee or whatever, walk around and make a couple of phone calls or whatever. But just having that like possibility of human interaction of like I otherwise would not probably meet these people, is definitely um allows every day on tour to possibly feel a little adventurous. But as far as like meeting people after shows, or the people that come to the shows too, like that, that is one of my favorite parts about um what we do, is the sense of community and for lack of a better term, the scene. There's like
Yeah.
the people that are there that you get to meet, that really they like what you do, and they have like they have a strong connection to stuff you've created, that it's mind-blowing to always to me that anyone likes what we do as a band. That's that's I never I never let that feeling of of being, mind blown that people like us. I never let that go away. Because it's crazy to think about. And so then you meet these people on the road that not only have you never met before and they really like what you do, but they like care about what you do. You know, it means a lot to them. Um, and so that that always provides you with this sort of sense of grounding and humility when you actually get a chance to talk to them, that um it's one of the coolest things when seeing people all together in a crowd, like when you see the crowd, and then it's lots of people and they're loud all together and they're excited. The crowd is its own thing, but like once you get those people, to talk to them individually, um it's like a very humbling thing to get to actually meet a lot of people on the road.
What does it mean to you that you get to like be people's comfort music? Like how
Uh,
much of a fucking trip is that?
it is, yeah, it is a trip because because our band has, we have some songs that are definitely heavy subject matter. We have songs about that, talk about addiction and suicide and things like that. So there's anybody in the audience that has had lost a relative or a partner to addiction or to suicide, or even a lot of times it's even just people that have had someone in their lives pass away recently, you know from any cause. They have a connection to those songs, and so it's you know a lot of times people are, you can see people having a visceral reaction at shows. So it's like, if that song is like helping them get through it, then like that's like the best we could ever hope for, is what I always say. When people are like, some people are like, your music like saved my life. You get the stories here and there where it's like I was addicted, for years, and listened to this one song by you guys and now I'm sober. And it's like you kind of hear stories like that here and there, and it's always like, damn, like I never thought that us just like making sounds could result in that. That's like the highest honor to me.
And it probably makes all the challenges of the road life worth it.
Yeah, it makes all that shit seem really small. Because like, and I'm not gonna it is difficult, but like I love everything about it. The whole process of it, being on tour, I love it. Aside from the, not being home and not seeing, your loved ones and things like that is hard, but like, I love the whole process of it, even the parts that kind of suck. I really kind of, trust that whole process of being on the road and going through the motions every day, and like, you know, writing a set list and thinking about the place that we're going to be, and like the town that we're going to play at, and the people that are there, and like each show presenting its own, the its own ups and downs, its own challenges and pros and cons, and how those days stack up on tour, and by the time you're like in your third week of tour or whatever, then you're like really in the groove, and like the band is firing and you're playing super well and you're very comfortable on stage. Like I just love the whole process of going out and doing it. And it is hard. There's definitely days that like really suck sometimes. But all of that seems kind of trivial compared to how cool, all the rest of it is.
Kind of a metaphor for life, right?
Totally.
You gotta take all the bad with the good, and you gotta like realize like there's gonna be days that fucking suck. There's going to be days that are hard. There's going to
Yeah.
be days that, I mean, to in the especially with the facet of mental health, like there are going to be days like you
Yeah.
don't even want to fucking get out of bed.
Yeah.
It's learning to like appreciate the small wins and learning to appreciate even the bad things are getting you to like the pinnacle of what you're trying to achieve, and it's moving you forward and it's progressing you.
Totally.
And I mean, life on the road is something that, again, it's something that unless you're doing it or unless you're feeling it, it's probably difficult to share and not always
Yeah.
having like somebody to be able to sympathize or to understand.
Totally. Yeah. And it people do, they understand to a degree and they will tell you that they understand, but it is like, it's this is a shit metaphor because it's not comparable at all, but it's like being a soldier, it's like um you know it's like the same like camaraderie that those guys have with each other is how the same that musicians are with like we have times where we run into a we might run into like a metal band that we've never heard of that is on tour that just happens to be in the same gas station as us at the time, and everyone's just kind of like, you know
Yeah.
I got you, buddy, I know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think some people are definitely built for it. I would say that I am built for it. A lot of things on the road that bother a lot of people really don't bother me. um and there's definitely a lot of people that I've seen in the business that are not built for it, and at the end of the day would probably rather do anything else than be constantly on the road. um and so part of that is like, there's a lot of pressure to be sort of perfectionist in um in the pursuit of the music, and like, there's always lots of people paying attention to whatever you're doing as a musician, so there is definitely pressure to always be perfect and to always um be that person that can carry these people emotionally, like a lot, there's tons of people that lean on your music to carry them through their lives, and there is a ton of pressure there, but it is a good reminder to give yourself grace that you know there's a lot of people probably could not do what we do, you know or at
Mhm.
least not for as long as we've done it.
And as hard and like day in,
Yeah.
day out.
Yeah, and a lot of people. That's the thing is like, you get that pressure to be perfection, and with social media now, nowadays you see, online there's people put their opinions on your work immediately, when it goes online, and so there is that, like, you know the pressure to appease the masses and like and make everybody like you, and all that, but it is a good uh reminder at the end of the day to give yourself a little grace, because a lot of people that are commenting on your Instagram video could definitely not put themselves out there like that every day.
A lot of keyboard warriors don't have the balls to even put themselves out there that way
Yeah,
in
totally.
any capacity.
Yeah.
Like it's real easy to share an opinion on Instagram or Twitter. It's
Yeah.
not easy to get out into the world and bare yourself. And something that you said in your backline clip, that's something that I spoke recently about with Scott from the Magic Beans was like, dude, like you guys, a lot of you guys get like idolized and put on this pedestal of like, there's so, you're a dude. You're a
Yeah,
guy
totally.
who's
Yeah.
got rent due and misses somebody and like
Yeah,
is pissed
totally.
off that they didn't pack the right shirt, like
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
whatever the case may be. And something that I'm trying to do with this podcast is like just humanize music and humanize
Yeah.
the industry. Cause like, yes, you guys are doing something special and you're creative and you're talented, but
Yeah.
I try to look at it more of the side of like how challenging that they're like going up every night and bearing themselves, how challenging that they're feeling these pressures, especially, I mean, social media is the most toxic fucking
Oh, the
thing
worst. Yeah,
on the planet.
the worst.
And it's so amazing to me that people can't like take the step back and just be like that's just a guy,
Yeah, totally.
just a dude.
Just a guy.
And I'm sure that that's something that you struggle with is in between like I am just a guy, but sometimes like having to like play the role
Totally.
or
Yeah.
feeling like I forget exactly which interview it was, but there was somebody that I spoke to where it was like having a responsibility to being what this person perceives.
Yeah,
And
totally.
like that is such a dangerous thing and so unhealthy because it doesn't permit you to just fucking be who you are.
Totally. And it is, I mean, it's kind of like a double-edged sword because it's really good motivation to hold yourself to a higher standard, to be like there, it is great motivation to be like there are people, that rely on me and there are people that need things from me, and we're in a position where, I'm not going to an office job. It's not like there's someone that can call in and like take my shift. Like, so if I don't do the work is not getting done. Um, so that is really good, motivation to, sort of push yourself and you know, work on bettering yourself and work, things like self-improvement, things like that. It's great motivation for, but it is a double-edged sword because after a while you get in the headspace of I am not good enough, I am not worthy enough. You get this sort of imposter syndrome and all these people expecting you to, you know, be there for them more or less. When sometimes there is no one there for you.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it can go the other route, which is super dangerous of like ego and like people that get this like I am this and I am that
Yeah.
and then
Oh yeah,
like
totally. Yeah, like you get the people in the scene sort of telling you all the things you want to hear all the time, even
yeah.
though it's not necessarily true. And I feel like um it's really easy. I think it's really easy for me to recognize that personally because we have such good friends in our community around our band, like that are actual friends that um whenever there's sort of behavior like that where you're like, well, that person's not actually my friend. They just want, they just want to tell me things that will make me like them, basically.
They're a connection, not a relationship.
Totally, yeah. And you will find I find most oftentimes that the biggest shit talkers online are the first people to say hi to you when you walk in the door,
Oh yeah.
which is
Oh yeah.
which I've always thought is funny, but like, motherfucker, like you don't think I know your name? Like you don't think I recognize your name from online? Like, like because a lot of times, yeah, we don't like, well, I'm not getting on there and commenting by any means, but like, I am like, checking our social media to see if, the release of this video went well or whatever, so I am seeing the things that people say. And I just find it hilarious. A lot of time those are the people that you walk in the door and they're like, oh, it's so good to see you. I'm like, yeah, fucking you too, bud. you know? Yeah. So it's, is interesting. Yeah, the whole ebb and flow of the social media influence on the music.
Yeah, because it's not unlike a live setting and unlike the creation and all those things, it's not like a real, tangible, personable like thing. It's
Yeah.
predominantly bullshit. It's all
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
saving face and having I mean, it's like I mean, textbook keyboard warrior is like shit behind your back and then smile to your face.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I find particularly there is a lot of pretentious nature within the jam scene. There's a lot of
Oh yeah.
fan bases that, rightfully so, maybe too much to an extent, kind
Yeah.
of get that like connotation of like, oh, like their fans are brutal.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's actually, I will say, as a band personally, we are super lucky to have minimal behavior like that
Yeah,
for in our fan group. And it, it might be, I mean, in part it is because we're not as popular, like, we're not Billy Strings. There's not, you know, a million people commenting on every
every
or
sock you wear.
yeah, totally. Yeah, like yeah. So, part of it is, yes, we're not as popular, but that I feel like that, like the headier than thou behavior gets fucking shut the fuck down in our fan base a lot. Like if people start acting like that, it gets shut down immediately.
Yeah,
And
it's unhealthy.
yeah, and our community is really good about being like, our band is sort of, like punk rock in nature. And part of that is like radical inclusion. This, like, you can come
Oh
here
yeah.
and you can be whatever it is that you want to or need to be. Like, this is a space for that.
Yeah, as it should be. That's what music is about. It's about inclusion. It's about universal nature.
Totally. And I love to see that. Like that's my favorite thing, is seeing people at our shows, seeing certain people at our shows that I would never think, just from looking at them, in a million years that they would be there.
The coolest thing about music is that and it's something particular that I see in fan bases like Billy Strings and in a weird way really in a lot of bluegrass.
Yeah,
It's so widespread. There's not like an age restriction, there's not like gatekeepers, there's not all that typical bullshit that you'll see. There's not like fucking tarpers and
yeah,
all the nonsense. It's so welcoming. Like for me personally, especially with bluegrass, it's like the most homey feeling good, happy. Don't get me wrong, there's songs about bad shit, but
totally.
that's
Yeah,
because it's the reality of life. There's bad shit and it's cool to be able to sing about that and dance to it and feel that shared community.
totally. Yeah,
So
yeah,
what exactly does in terms of that community, you said how it's important to you and stuff like that. What exactly does it mean to you to get to build a community? How does like I can't I'm sure that it has its challenges of being in that space, like we said, with people having an expectation and idolizing and putting you on a pedestal and whatnot.
totally. Yeah, yeah.
But in the real relationships and the real things that you get to achieve, what does it serve you personally and serve your mental health to be able to like be a marker for that?
It's like, um, it's kind of like the, like, acts of service sort of thing, or paying it back, like, I part of our community is definitely like, especially in Montana, is like people that we kind of grew up with or got started with in college. So they're like, there's people in the crowd that, like, you know, Adam Paccioni is there, and he, like, employed half the band at his pizza shop for a little bit. Or there's like, our buddy Matt Wallen, who's a songwriter, and we've written and recorded with him. And but he's also like, he gave us jobs, at his weed farm when we were in college and needed money. And or like there's our friends Ben and Becca Moore, who gave me and my girlfriend at the time a place to live with them in their house when we were, like, down and out and had no money and had nowhere to go. And so there's like all of these relationships with these people that are it's just like any other community, like kind of, takes a village, and everyone is really good about helping each other out. And I take it as an opportunity to pay it back to those people, they're always like, it means so much to us that you guys have this, and we love it, and but I'm always like, yeah, well, it also means a lot to us that you guys are still here and part of this whole thing. And like, all of, there's a ton of people in the crowd that at one point either clothed or fed or housed or paid for something that we needed at the time. And this is our way of paying it back, basically, and looking out for those people.
Pretty fucking cool to be able to do that and to
Yeah,
then
super cool. Yeah.
succeed and be like, hey, like this thing that you've been on the ride for, like, look where it's going. Like, I'm a huge fan of John Craigie,
Yeah,
and
me too. I love Craig.
you talked about him on your No Simple Road interview, and the quote, some days it's the gorge and some days it's the garage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's such I mean, he's incredible. I saw him this past winter. He did some shows here in Colorado. He played at the Fox. He played at the Ogden, and he's fantastic. But that quote is so cool because for you, I mean, what you're looking out at every night from the stage is different.
Totally.
But I'm sure that there's something really cool about like when you get to come home or when you get to go back. Well, obviously, I know home isn't Montana anymore, but like when you get to go back to Montana or when you're in a pocket
Yeah,
in Colorado where like you look out and you see somebody that believed in you from day one,
totally.
and
Yeah,
seeing that integration of that person versus the guy that just heard about you the other day are
totally. Yeah, yeah.
both there seeking and enjoying, and you're a conduit to that.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
It's got to be a trip. It's got to be a good feeling to know that something that makes you feel so good is also, the service thing. It's you serving yourself is also helping serve other people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, part of that is like doing, doing what's best for you, and being true to yourself, and showing up for yourself, that is a great example of like being able, that enables you to show up for others, so like
Hmm.
if we're taking care of ourselves on the road and in the band, and we're having a good relationship with our bandmates and business partners and stuff like that, and we're looking out for each other's well-being, then that is enabling all of us as a band to show up for our community.
And the community, it's a cycle. You serve the community serves you, the crowd
Totally.
serves you, you serve the crowd. It's all there's a hive mind within music. There's a real you're doing your part, I'm doing mine, but we're all after the same thing. We're all building to achieve something. And obviously there's a different internal aspect. Some people are seeking enlightenment or awakening. Some people are seeking connection and relationship. Some people are just seeking a fucking buzz. you
Totally.
know,
Yeah.
whatever it means to you. But I think that that's my favorite part about music is that it's such a connection point. It's such a beacon of something better and such a way for every individual person to have what they're looking for within a beautiful umbrella of us all being united. And it's
Yeah.
a united front,
Totally.
especially in a world that is so divided in so many ways. And I all the, like we said, the toxicity of social media and political landscape and all the things that we have going on in our lives. Music is
Yeah.
always a thing to come back to hold on to preserve, to love, and to just have together and by yourself. It serves both simultaneously.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, and it's like yeah, serves as a good reminder that people are still people when nowadays, it's so yeah, so polarizing and divided online, and there's, it's really dehumanizing in a way that there you see now you're seeing someone online as more of that an idea that's being represented instead of like that's a person, and playing music all across the country and playing in every state and meeting people from all walks of life that maybe don't have the same ideals as you, but you're still able to get along and coexist and even have a good fucking time with each other. um is a great reminder that people are people, and nobody has to necessarily agree all the time for us all to get along and have a great time.
Yeah, I mean, there's that quote of like, like nobody gets hurt in music. Obviously, people do, and shit
Yeah,
happens, but
yeah,
that's also from other other influences and other things.
totally.
Um, but for real, it does show you that people are people. It shows you that you can, there's like all those bumper stickers of like coexistence with all the different symbols
Oh,
and
yeah,
shit.
yeah, totally. Yeah,
Music's like an actual example of that. It's a real
totally.
physical, tangible thing.
Yeah.
And in terms of music, in terms of longevity and what you're doing and your relationship with it, how important is it to you to just be yourself within it?
Super important. Yeah, I think that um when we're ourselves in the middle of all that, that's what I mean, that's kind of what like draws people to you, like when you're authentically yourself. It's, I mean, it's sort of like a form of confidence, like as long as you have confidence, you can essentially achieve whatever you want in life, because no one can tell if confidence is real or not. So so if you have this air
Facts.
of knowing what the fuck you're doing, even if you don't, you can achieve almost whatever you want in life. And I think that in some of the same way is fully being yourself, in the midst of all of these different people and walks of life of this community, is definitely what draws the community to you, or what makes you you know gets you more fans, and makes people be more attracted to your music,
Do you find personal freedom and personal and self-exploration within music?
Definitely. Yeah, yeah, I think yeah, sometimes even just like the act of thinking about um stuff that you want to write, or like just kind of like the possibilities basically of what you can do with a career in music is like endless. And yeah, there's like, I mean, there's, yeah, tons of freedom to be found in it. Like, I mean, recently, yeah, like yeah, I went on this trip um in May, called Rhythm and Sales, that's put on by the
Hmm.
Icelandic ski folks, and they basically own this company with um, a lot of the guys from Icelandic skis, and then also they run this company with Anders from Green Sky, and basically what it is. Oh, there you are.
Sorry, had to find another one.
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
no worries, you're good, dude. But yeah, basically what this trip is sailing through St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the Caribbean, and you basically stop on an island every night and play for everyone that comes on the trip. It's kind of like maybe the equivalent of like River Wondergrass or something like that, where you're like,
Right.
you're playing acoustically for a small group of people, but it's, part of it is the music and the intimate nature of it, but part of it is the experience. um and it was like the coolest thing I've ever done, like the coolest trip I've ever been on. um and just the whole time thinking about like the banjo brought me here. Like, the banjo brought me to this island in the Caribbean, and I'm standing next to these Rasta guys on the beach, and like there's tons of freedom to be found in music, and that's one very literal example of freedom. Otherwise I don't think I would have had the ability to go on that trip, or to go sailing in the Caribbean without the existence of music. So that's one very yeah, very literal example. But yeah, I think that music provides a ton of freedom.
Yeah, well, something that Jake Brownstein told me, for him, it's a way for him to like track himself. It's a way for him to note his personal progressions, and like he's like, music is a way in an afternoon to see progress. Like I couldn't do that 3 hours ago.
Totally.
And in that realm of like freedom and progress and tracking, just like how a song lyric or an album is like a pocket in time. Like you
Yeah,
guys made an album during COVID that when you listen back to it, I'm sure it reminds you, because music can be transcendent. It takes you places. A,
totally.
ly-
Yeah,
a lyric that you wrote, or a lyric just that you love that you heard, like the Craigie one, they mean something to you. And in the way that we can with show posters, and the way that we can with Wook trinkets and pins, you can attach an emotion and a feeling to it that evokes
totally.
something back.
Yeah.
What exactly, from an emotional standpoint, have you found that music has helped you kind of grow into? Obviously, as you progress through music, you learn scales, you learn theory, you learn all those things. What exactly has that type of relationship to music, or how has it benefited you in your personal ventures?
Um, yeah, I mean, for me, it's yeah, sort of how we got here, and as a band, but also as just musicians, skill wise, is we basically just picked an idea and believed in it until it worked. And so it's it's really like a reminder to me that like you can achieve anything that you put intention behind. Anything that you um believe in hard enough, or put enough thought behind, the reality will eventually grow behind that. Because you're putting that energy out into the universe, and you're also, you're basically charting your course in your mind. And so it's basically, it definitely serves as proof to me that we can definitely accomplish whatever goals we set our mind to. And we can do, super hard things when it gets down to it. And a lot of it, you know most of the world is people saying I can't do this, which I've always hated that outlook. When the immediate reaction is I can't do this. I've never never resonated with that at all. even when it comes down to really trivial things.
Hmm.
So it definitely, our existence in music as musicians definitely serves as a reminder that, like, one day I just decided that I was gonna play the banjo in in this bluegrass band, and we were gonna make music that we really liked, and we were gonna do it enough so that other people liked it, and then we were gonna make a living doing that. And it's like, it is, yeah, just a huge reminder, huge motivator for sure.
It seems like it gave you like belief in yourself and your abilities and in
Totally, yeah.
confidence in your choices.
Yeah, definitely. And that's part of it too, is like, growing up wanting to be a musician is not a thing, people don't get that. A lot of people don't get it, and especially coming from where I grew up, in like rural Wyoming and Montana and stuff, it was a lot of like, I definitely had some relatives that in the past that kind of made fun of me, um, like, or, relatives or friends that, kind of made fun of me, like, why are you doing this? You can't afford, a fucking new car, or, something that, things that a lot of people our age were like getting at the time, and having access to other, like, whatever physical examples of success, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Hmm.
And there was definitely a lot of people that were like, um, why are you doing this, that didn't understand it. And now that we are, again, for lack of a better term, successful, those people are definitely don't have much to say about it anymore,
Sure. Yeah.
and so it definitely, yeah, serves as a point of confidence in my choices in life, and to, believe in it, or believe my intuition. And you know it's and succeeding to spite people is always a great motivator for me.
Yeah.
you know um I'm kind of joking there, kind of serious, but
There's both sides. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
that
there's both sides of it for sure. But yeah, no,
yeah.
definitely, there was a lot of, it came from a lot of self-doubt early on. There was um a lot of wondering if what we were doing was worthwhile, or if it was, there's definitely those was much harder days more frequently back then. And it was, a lot of it was kind of like, why the fuck are we doing this?
Hmm.
uh but now, now it's, I serves as a good reminder to that we just believed in it enough that we did it,
It instilled perseverance.
yeah, totally, yeah.
It made you know that it was something that you were capable of achieving. It made you also probably in the most incredible way really made you kind of understand that just because somebody says they can or can't do something doesn't mean that you can or can't. I mean, I'm sure you've had people that you saw not achieve, and I don't want to say lack of a better term because you are successful and you have earned where you are. And
Right,
I'm
yeah,
sure you've watched people not achieve that.
totally, yeah. And there's definitely, we've definitely taken notes and seen what not to do in the music industry for sure,
Sure.
and what not, even just what not to do as musicians, as far as like how we want to structure a show, and the things that we want to play, or how we want to, you know even getting technical, in the ways in which we want to improvise and things like that. um and yeah, definitely, yeah, seen some ways that I'm glad we didn't do it that way, for sure.
I feel like there's way more readily available what not to do's than there are what to do's.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's a lot more, it's a lot more tangible of like, oh, you know, don't just go out on stage without writing a set list and play whatever comes to mind because it's gonna fuck up your run of the show and
Mhm.
you're not gonna look professional. That's a very tangible thing where it's like, how do I get people to like my band? Well, just be yourself, actually. And that's like much more of a fucking nebulous thing
For
than
sure.
being like, don't do 4 Tom Waits covers in a row on stage because no one's going to go see your fucking band if you do that. Something like that. Yeah, I feel like the what not to do's are much more literal for sure.
And they're just also, I feel like, in typical human fashion, the negatives or the wrongs are just typically what we're like hyper fixated on is like, don't do
Yeah,
that. Like
yeah,
instead of,
totally. Yeah, yeah.
you know, I find that what it seems to be is music is a thing that helps you get out of your own way.
Totally. Yeah. And it's like are you familiar with the second self?
Yeah.
The second self is? Yeah. So like um so there's that book, The Inner Game. Have
Hmm.
you read that book?
I haven't read it, but it's on. I have a huge list of books in my phone, and I know that that one's on it.
Yeah, and so our guitar player first read it, and it's like it's told from the perspective of like tennis players. It's like Olympic athletes there, and they're talking about the inner game is like is basically the concept of like you are the mountain that you have to climb. It's all a battle with yourself, as far as improving and being doing your best work is all sort of a battle with yourself. But these athletes and these high achieving people are talking about accessing the second self, which the second self just does. Like it's all of your like instinct and your muscle memory and your very like primal um evolutionary nature, to just do something that your body knows how to do. And but who also is into the second self is Brian Sutton.
Hmm.
And I think I remember that correctly on Chris Pandolfi's podcast,
Hmm.
Inside the Musician's Brain. Brian Sutton is talking about that as from a musician standpoint, where like, oh, the when I'm doing my best work, I'm not thinking about what I'm playing, and I'm not thinking about, oh, there's these people here at this show and they're watching me, and I want to do, I want to do good for this certain person in the room, or I want to appear this certain way for this gig, or things like that. And it really, all of that shit is getting in the way of you performing to your the utmost of your abilities. So doing your best to do these exercises in mindfulness and things like that of trying to access the second self, where your brain sort of it's almost like a deep meditative state where you're in a flow state, and you're playing and you're improvising, but you're not really thinking about it. It's kind of like I think it's in maybe Bittersweet Motel, some Fish interview where um Page is talking about, he's like, I know it's a really good show, or like we're in a really good jam if I like notice that I've forgotten to breathe in like you know a minute or something. Like I take a gasp of breath. Like that's how I know that we're like really in it, is
Mm.
because I forgot to breathe. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So it's yeah, all of yeah. I don't know where I was going with that,
No,
but
I think you went exactly where you were supposed to, and that the self progression within music and finding that point of where you're like in it and where
Yeah,
you're also able of where you're able to be in it in your life are operating in tandem.
totally. Yeah.
Your journey with music is a catalyst to your journey with yourself because they're kind of one and the same.
Yeah, totally. And it's also something that you're thinking about all the time, and you're like, it's like working with your mental health, or going to therapy or anything like that. It's like you're never like done, and it's um, kind of like, the Jerry Garcia um method of approaching music is ever being the student, you're always
Hmm.
learning something. You're always learning from someone, or some technique, or something that you didn't know before. And um being able to recognize that, and not think you know it all, is a super, good way to always better yourself. You're always gonna, you can totally, it's kind of like the thing of, never being afraid to ask a question, or at the risk of sounding stupid, like never be afraid to admit you don't know something, because you'll always come out for the better of it.
Yeah, and I mean, the minute you stop learning is the first step the other direction.
Totally. Yeah. And that's the first step to, the minute you stop, you know, actively trying to, work with your mental health, or maintain your mental health, the minute you stop doing that is when you start burying shit, and which just becomes a bigger problem later. So
Yeah, because then it's the truth of mental health is that the work never stops.
yeah, totally.
It never ever stops. And in a weird way, while that's daunting and
Yeah,
frightening because you're
totally.
like, okay, I have to just work on this as long as I'm here.
Yeah,
And
totally.
there's going to be things that I can't control that are going to affect it. There's going to be things that I don't understand and don't understand how they affect. Like something that
Totally.
I talked to Cam from Best Show Ever about was in his journey with therapy, it was like us not even being able to understand the impact of certain things in the moment and how I kind of paralleled that with that, like the little wins are what add up to the big ones,
Totally.
but
Yeah,
also the little losses and the little difficulties are what add to those like huge valleys or those moments where we're caught in depression or anxious or
yeah,
whatever negative things that we're feeling. So it really is imperative to constantly upkeep and maintain and check in on yourself and check in on your friends and your loved ones and
totally.
recognize like just like how I was saying before about how, musicians, you guys, artists, anybody, we're just fucking human and we're
Yeah,
just trying to all figure it out. And I think the second that you try to go around that, you're automatically not serving yourself anymore.
totally. Yeah,
And I find it really, really cool that for what I can gather for you, music is that companion to self progression, to self awareness, to self growth.
totally.
And I guess that must be one of the coolest things for you about being a musician is that you found your thing.
Totally. Oh yeah, that's like that is like uh like always been like a thing that I've like never really like questioned, and is like, is kind of like a huge relief to me, is there's so many people that just like have no idea what they want to do with their time on this earth, and they have like, and some of them are, obviously pursuing different things here and there, and whether it's changing their career, or you know where they live, or relationships, or whatever, and trying all these different things out. There are those people that are, they're definitely trying to find what it is that makes them tick, or that drives them, or that they, find whatever you love and let it kill you sort of thing.
Hmm.
Uh, but there's also the people that don't know what they want to do, and so they're just kind of in a constant rut. They're working at a job that they fucking hate, and
They're in
or they're living,
purgatory.
yeah, or they're living somewhere that they don't want to live, or with someone that they don't want to live with, and they're like, and they don't know what it is that they want, but they don't, getting out of that seems to be so much of an uprooting and going against everything that they know, that they're just kind of floating. And so having that set in my mind of knowing that being in music is it has always been like the thing that I want to do, and I know that that's what I want to do, and I know that's how I want to spend my time on earth, and I know that that's that's my purpose, that's my way of giving back or contributing, or whatever you want to call it. That just knowing that that's my thing is like a definitely a huge relief to a lot of problems that that I think many people have, that I've managed to avoid just from knowing that that's what I want.
That's cool, man. I'm happy that you found your thing.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
For sure. And I think that whatever particular of music that you're into, whether you're a musician, whether you're a fan, whether you're a photographer, an artist, somebody making a poster, whatever
Yeah,
realm of music you fall into, let music, even if it's not your thing from your how you make a living, whatever,
yeah,
let music be the thing. Music is the art that feeds. Let it feed you.
yeah, totally, totally.
And I think that I've really I can really see that music is a direct connection to your mental health. And I think that the fact that music has led you to where you are now and
Yeah,
also helped you in the journey of who you are now.
yeah,
It's a beautiful thing.
yeah, yeah. It's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Music got me my therapist through Backlines. So
Yeah,
know, um, and yeah, it definitely, um, yeah, gives me a lot of things, and is always definitely teaching me things about about everything in life, but also, yeah, definitely teaching me things about myself.
it's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome.
And so what I want to do right now, I want to just give you open floor to anything you want to say, anything you want to share with whoever, your fellow musicians, your family, your friends, people listening, or even to yourself. If there's one thing that Torrin would want to share with the world or with you, with yourself right now, what would that be?
Um, I think it would be um that I feel like a lot of things are pushing us all to be perfect all the time, and I think that as people, humans in this day and age don't generally don't give themselves a lot of grace, and um can people can be really hard on themselves, um and I'm that way in particular. I can be super self-critical and super hard on myself, um and I think it's a good reminder that um can we can we can mess up in life, and it's it's more important to recognize it and be able to, pick yourself up um and move on and and improve from it, rather than to, you know, dwell on it and let it, let it eat at you. I think it's important to give yourselves grace, and recognize that we're all human, no matter as much as social media and everything else would be built to suggest, we are actually all still human and definitely all learning and growing and, figuring it out as we go along. And I feel like there's no set in stone way to do it. There's no right way to do it. It's just the way that is right for you.
I think that is a beautiful thing to share and a beautiful kind of recognition and reflection of the simple fact that we just are all human.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's been wonderful to get to know you and pick your brain through this and see kind of just how music affects you and see what it gives you and what you want to give to it. And I really respect your honesty about, where you're at in your own journey and what music means to you and your ability to really understand where you are within it and the
Yeah.
world that we're
Thanks.
in. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's been awesome to get to know you through this, and I really appreciate you making the time, and I'm excited to, hopefully stay in touch and keep digging into more conversations like these.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, dude, for whenever we're in Colorado, which we are a lot, hit us
Yeah.
up, do a show.
Yeah, man. I absolutely will. Next KD show here, I'm there 100%. It'll be a pleasure to, chat and say what's up and give each other a hug.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. So I always end these the same way by giving the people listening, watching, and to you as well a similar message. And it's that I believe in you in every single fucking thing that you do in this life, and I love you. And wherever we go from here is exactly where we're supposed to because it's just the human experience. So take a deep breath, drop your shoulders, be human, and just enjoy the life that you get to live because it's pretty fucking cool to be here.
Yeah, it is. That it is.
Well, well, thanks again so much for making the time today, man. I really appreciate it. This has been great, and I'll definitely be in touch. And yeah, look forward to hopefully down the line having you back for another one.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, thanks a bunch for having me. I appreciate yeah, the opportunity of getting to talk and discuss.
Absolutely, man. So, guys, appreciate you checking out this episode, and I hope that everything in your life is just human. So, we'll see you in the next episode, and until then, take care and be well.
Hell yeah.